Today we are going to talk about pretty exciting. It's the AI talk that is on top of mind for every enterprise, and we're gonna talk about how network can enable you and how you can manage your network better with AI. By the way, on this Zoom webinar, there is a chat, so feel free to introduce yourself, which city you belong to, and how's the weather there. So you can talk among yourselves about any of the stuff that you guys are doing within your enterprise. My name is Misbah Rehman, and I'm a VP of Product Management and Compliance. With me, my co-presenter is Alex. Alex, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Misbah. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for joining this webinar. My name is Alex Maldonado, and I'm Principal Solutions Architect here at Alkira.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. So today when we talk about the AI transformation, what we have often seen is, and this transformation is purely from enterprise trying to adopt AI applications or implementing AI within their enterprise network. Often compute and storage takes the center stage and networking becomes an afterthought. And this is not a hypothetical statement. We have seen a similar trend in the days of cloud era, where cloud service provider did a great job providing compute and storage on demand, the agility from an app development perspective. However, network was still mundane, static, done for like max capacity, and it takes time to provision. So the outcome was of it was, even though developers and applications can be developed at a very rapid pace, where they can consume the infrastructure as a service on demand, do not have to build data center. But when it comes to the complete end-to-end app delivery, network becomes the bottleneck. And that is where we started our company, with a vision to bring the same thing to networking, what cloud service provider did to compute and storage. That is, deliver network as a service on demand with agility anywhere you want it. And you can connect anything to this network platform on an on-demand basis, and you can do pay-as-you-go. You can just deploy it in a pay-as-you-go fashion. You can start with 100 meg, you can go to 1 gig, and as your capacity increase, you can just increase your network capacity. Now with this AI, these requirements are even more strict and more intense. This application is more distributed. It's found the kind of things that you're deploying with agents, data sources, LLMs, the users interacting with it, it's even more stricter. So what it means is that network needs to be more agile, more flexible, has to have a global reach. It can be deployed anywhere on demand in a matter of few minutes. Now, at the same time, when you are leveraging AI to deploy these AI applications, the network ops has to change. It needs to evolve with AI. It needs to use the tools that the AI bring to the table so that you can manage your network more efficiently. You can scale better in terms of, as your deployment grows, you can scale with those AI tools. And this actually leads us to a very natural two-pronged strategy from an AI perspective. So when it comes to Alkira, our strategy for AI is networking for AI, which means that we need to build and provide our customers with a state-of-the-art network that is built for AI application. The attributes of it basically works well with an AI application deployments. Like, it has to be on demand as a service, low latency, high throughput, segmentation, zero trust. And even the security and segmentation is very important, because security within AI is evolving too. The architecture needs to provide you the options where you can implement security from a problem injection perspective. So even the security is evolving as we deploy the AI application. And then next is the AI for networking, equipping the enterprise with the tools that they need in order to manage their network through AIOps, like provide self-healing network abilities, like in case if you are confident of making changes and all that with the data that you have. So that brings up a natural like two-pronged strategy that we have. And today in this webinar, we are going to talk about what are those. We'll go into the details of it. And then at the end, Alex will actually show you the demo in terms of what functionality we brought to the table from an AI for networking perspective. Now, from a architecture perspective, how Alkira can enable you to provide the components from a network perspective that is suited for these AI deployments. This is kind of a high-level blueprint of these AI applications that you can deploy using Alkira. What you see on the middle is these hexagons. These are CXPs, Cloud Exchange Points. These CXPs can be deployed anywhere globally, wherever there is a cloud region. So these work on top of the cloud service provider. We provide them as a service, so you do not have to deploy, worry about maintaining it, upgrading them. These are all provided as a service. As soon as you bring up these CXPs, they automatically connect to each other in a full mesh fashion. Automatically, from a business outcome perspective, if you are to deploy an application across, like globally, you do not need to build this backbone. Like traditionally, you have to work with the service provider, get an MPLS circuit, and then build those backbone connectivity, which may take a long time. And then you cannot afford to start slow with here, like with 100 meg, and you grow to 1 gig to 10 gig and all that as your business grows. Day zero, you have to put in the CapEx in order to build that backbone that eventually your apps would need. But with this kind of an architecture, as it's very horizontally scalable, on demand and all that, you can start very slow. You can just build 4 or 5 regions where you need with limited capacity, and they automatically connect into a full mesh, and you get a corporate backbone just by clicking those regions and building those CXP. These automatically exchange routes, and you do not have to build any complex BGP configuration to establish it. Now, once these CXPs are deployed, you have a global backbone from an enterprise perspective. On the left-hand side, there are flexible connectivity options. Any standard connectivity that you can think of, you can bring it to CXPs. You can bring cloud service providers. You can have SD-WAN extended to CXPs. You can have IPsec extended to CXPs from your branches, or you can have remote users connecting to those CXPs. And this is key, because when you talk about the AI applications, there are agents that are distributed. There are LLMs that may be deployed in the cloud as being consumed as PaaS services. There are data sources that could be across cloud or within the data center, and then remote users using those applications. So all of these elements from an AI perspective, like these agents, LLMs, data sources, they can be distributed anywhere. And they could be residing in some of your partner network that you may be consuming, right? So the flexible connectivity option is key whenever you are trying to deploy any of your AI initiative and you want to run on top of your network. Then on top of it, we talk about the security. We have a security marketplace within these CXPs where you can actually deploy any firewall of your choice from the vendor that you have standardized on. We have all the top firewall vendors that can be deployed with, like on the CXP through our marketplace. On top of it, there are other network services like DDI services that you can deploy, load balancer services that you can deploy, like on this CXPs. Now, from an architecture perspective, let's suppose you have the ability to deploy or have this security insertion point within this network, and it's not purely just a bare network that you can have security, or like other network services can be deployed to. From an architecture perspective, it provides you an opportunity as the traffic traverses from different elements of your AI application, like LLMs, AI agents, data sources, and all that. You can insert you can have a regional exit point where you can actually implement security. If you want to do a prompt injection from an LLM perspective, if any user is making a request and you're going to do a prompt injection, you can terminate your connection onto those firewalls and inspect and provide security for these AI applications or AI deployments. Now, on top of it, another thing that we have seen is different business unit within the enterprises have different initiatives. They might be using different LLMs, they might be using different data sources, which from a security perspective, they want to keep it completely isolated, segregated from another business unit. So this platform provides the opportunity to do segmentation, where you can isolate your different deployments from the LLMs data sources perspective, so they are completely secure and segregated at a network level. And then on top of it, it's a feature-rich platform, which is again very important, because when you talk about managing enterprise network, you need to have those feature functionality that can cater to those enterprise requirements in terms of complex routing, overlapping IP address space, like how do you want to leak routes between the shared resources and all that. And then end-to-end monitoring and visibility, because when you're deploying this global network, you cannot have any of the stones unturned. You cannot have a blind spot in your network. You have to have the complete visibility, end-to-end visibility, along with troubleshooting within your infrastructure. And then lastly, through this platform, we have launched recently MCP and our network assistant that can help you along with those AI for networking tools and all that. So the next one is the other part of the strategy, AI for networking, where we talk about the network insights for AIOps. So there are two products that we have. One is the NIA, which is the Network Infrastructure Assistant, and other is the MCP, the Model Context Protocol. Both of them has a place, and the reason why we launched, because every enterprise is at a different stage from a AI adoption perspective. And these two actually provides you the ability where you can talk to your network. You can actually extract meaningful information by talking to it based on the data being provided. And data being provided is super important, because all of these tools, when you are implementing and you are providing the network data to these LLMs, and you can talk to those to extract the information that you need, the important is the data that you're providing. So there is a lot of infrastructure work that is going on within the product in order to bring that meaningful data to these LLMs, so that it can provide meaningful information when you are trying to query through these tools. So this NIA is basically something that is integrated within our portal. This will be like a network assistant, where you can just log into your portal, you can just launch NIA and start having a conversation about your network. Some enterprise, maybe like in their journey, they're still looking to standardize LLMs. They want to implement LLMs within their enterprises, but haven't standardized on a solution. This gives them the tool where they can start leveraging the AIOps piece of it, or extract information through this LLMs through the portal without needing an LLM being deployed within their environment. In some cases, and some enterprises have already standardized these LLM deployments within their network. They have already standardized on an LLM like a ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. In those cases, they can actually integrate Alkira's MCP server with their own LLMs. And this also provides them the path towards building those network agentic AI applications, where this MCP server will provide all the insights from a network perspective, because we are in a unique spot where from an enterprise perspective, all the network traffic is going through us. So we can have those intelligence provided through those LLMs. And then on top of it, you can also integrate with other LLM services to have an end-to-end agentic application built on top of it. For instance, Alkira's MCP agent can be integrated along with Jira's MCP server. And if there is an issue within the network, any alert, notification, and all that, you can pick it up. You can get the logs from Alkira. You can extract exactly why that issue is happening. And then once you have those information, you can actually punt it to Jira and have the initial triaging of that issue by creating a case automatically through this agentic AI. And you can triage the issue, find the problem, and basically create that case. Eventually, some of the cases where you feel confident about, which are repeatable tasks and all that, and you see that sometimes all it takes to bounce the tunnel to fix that issue, some of those actions you can also integrate eventually where it not only triage the issue, but it can go a step ahead and do some basic tasks, which you have seen in your stats and analytics, that some of these issues can be simply fixed by bouncing off the tunnel, or there is a fat fingering of AS number or IPsec keys and all that stuff. So those you can go to an extra, like another extent where you can actually automatically fix on top of triaging the issues. Now, some of the use cases that we have seen where you can implement through like some of the tools that we are offering is one of the top one is security and compliance. I get involved with compliance day in, day out. This is probably the most simplistic way of getting your audit evidence, right? You basically want to check your posture, you want to check your framework in terms of your compliance perspective, that if you have a requirement where nothing is allowed inbound from internet within your network except for certain IP or certain application, you can build agents around it that keep on checking where these ports are open, what are the IP address. You can give the report, and you can also tag it whether your network is within compliance or not. And at the time of audit, whatever those controls are asking for those evidences, you can simply query that and talk up and basically get those evidences instead of going into the system. Troubleshooting, capacity planning is another thing that you can definitely do with these, where you can extract from a troubleshooting perspective, you can extract the information from like if there are any notification alarms, you can get the logs. From the logs, you can figure out the problem, the exact problem, and then you can basically recommend a solution to the end user about how to fix it. Capacity planning, this is a great use case for any leadership within the enterprise. Like now you have a renewal coming in, or you want to see that how you are utilizing a certain solution, in this case Alkira, within your network. You can quickly generate a report, and at the same time you can see the utilization within the platform. And then lastly, like monitoring and alerting and other reports that you can get through this, which Alex is actually going through the actual demo with some of the use cases that you will be able to do with this MCP. Alex, why don't you want to take over and show us the real deal?
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Misbah, for that. And let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Misbah, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, awesome. So thanks again. Thanks everyone for joining. This is my VS Code, and I put a Claude theme on it because what is a Claude? I'm sorry, what is an agent, right? So an agent requires like a large language model, like what Misbah stated, right? We need to be able to have tools. It needs to be able to do knowledge and memory and have some guardrails, but also the orchestration. So I decided to go with Claude Code because it is a coding agent. I am using Sonnet 4.5, which is a large language model, and I've used Claude Code before, and it's been a large improvement between 4.5. So the cool thing with Cloud Code is it allows you to insert your MCP. So in this case, I have my MCP server. I hit enter and notice that I am connected. And what our MCP server basically does is it basically contextualizes our APIs. Okay. So in this case, it's made life a lot easier. Again, as a solutions architect, I'm always with deployment, documentation, looking at alerts and things of that nature. And what I like to think of this as it's almost like your AI assistant. So I have a handful of use cases that I'm going to run through, and let's go with the one first use case, which is basically what Misbah has stated with like a security audit. Okay, so think of this use case as, let's say, you want to do an audit of your business IPsec connectors coming into your tenant. You want to then see like what's your lowest level of encryption that you have, and maybe you want to go ahead and update those. But more importantly, let's think of we had a prospective customer that basically stated, we have 1,500 IPsec connectors. They're aware of quantum computing, the algorithms, and if you notice, AWS just released a post-quantum computing algorithm that helps for IPsec. So what I'm going to do here is in my tenant, provide me an audit of the IPsec connectors and flag the ones that have the lowest level of IPsec encryption. Okay. So the other thing is with any any coding agent or just agent in general, your prompting, you want to be basically be very precise. What do you want me to do, and give you the results. Okay, so I'm not hiding this, but look, right now what it's going to do is going to go out to Alkira, to my tenant. It's going to basically automate all of the APIs on there to look for all of the IPsec connectors. It's not just going to look at IPsec connectors, but it's also going to look at advanced IPsec connectors, retrieve their profiles, and give me a detailed configuration of each of the connectors. Analyze the encryption setting, and then create a general report on which ones are flags with weak encryption. Okay, so what I did here, because this, and please bear, some of the use cases I did, it takes a bit while and we have short on time. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the report that it gives us. Right, so this is what it did for me that I ran earlier today. But you'll see that 5 out of 17 connectors have AES 128 CBC encryption. So I can take this now because it's a coding agent. I can create a CSV on this. I can create a documentation and things of that nature. Okay.
So Alex, without it, you'll probably need a pretty complex script. Even if you're doing APIs, like you'll grab all the connectors. You have a logic that, okay, then look at the encryptions and all that, and then probably generate those lists. So in this case, you just do a simple query and you get the report what you're looking for.
That is correct, absolutely. And a good example would be, we have a very complex customer who was going from one firewall vendor to another. If I didn't have this tool, right, what would you need to do, right? You create you'll have to know the exact APIs.
Yeah.
You'll then need to write a JQuery script to get the data, merge it together, do what you wanted to do, and show you what the output that you want. So all of those steps have been eliminated with the MCP server.
Yeah, and that is where I was talking about the value from a security and compliance perspective too. First of all, you can check like in terms of your like if you're complying with certain encryption levels, and then even for the audits itself, right? For these auditors, this can be an evidence right away that here you go, like any of those critical connectors with the name, we can look it up and check the encryption levels.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it just finished, so it just tells you everything from here. So to that point, right, here's the segment, here's the IPsec configuration, and in this case, right, here's a summary table of all the connectors that you have, and then the detailed reports of the analysis of which ones are 128. So again, from an audit perspective, create the documentation, review it, and provide it to your team. Okay. Awesome. So So now let's look to the second, and I think I see a question. Do you have a real example where an acquired site or migration can be onboarded with the help of Alkira MCP? What were their steps? So yes, we can definitely discuss that because I do get that question a lot when it comes to Terraform. But that's actually my use case for number 3. So we'll go to that one after this one. So then the second use case is as you stated earlier, like a dashboard, right? What I have here is here's my prompt that I have is create an executive dashboard, and I want it to be very like a 2-minute or less, because sometimes when we want to create reports, we want to create it for a C-level, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. But what's going to happen is it's going to go out there, and let's think of what API is calling. It's going to call all the APIs for all of your connectors, all of your firewall services, all of your cloud connectors, your regions, look at all the alerts, look at all the audit logs, and put it in a very quick summary. Now, anytime I run any AI reports or anything like that, I just don't provide it outright. I look at it, I tweak it, make sure that it still becomes mine. But what I'm noticing, like in 2025 with AI, prompting is going to be a really good skill to have, right? So in this case, create an executive dashboard, make it a story in 2 minutes or less for my tenant, and put it in the MD extension. This is for a C-level executive. Put the executive summary at the top of the report, okay? So I'm going to go through here, and we'll see that it's going to, again, go through all the APIs and provide you that report, okay? And again, I always like to do the Control-C to do the to-dos, and you'll see everything that's basically going to be coming in. Now, I think I saw this as a question earlier on. Do we allow the MCP to do certain things or require intervention with guardrails? The answer to that is yes. That's really more of the MCP server today is more of a read only. But the future is bright. We do see some instances where customers want to say, "Hey, create me an IPsec connector," and create it. And I think this will be more where NIA comes in, where it's integrated into the portal itself. But in this case, it's telling me, do I want to go out there and get all the notification alerts? And I'm going to say, yes, let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to just say number 2, so it doesn't prompt me again due to for time. All right, so now it's going to go out and get all the information that we want. And it's going to analyze those, put in a nice summary, and then provide the executive dashboard, which is going to be something like this. Right, so an executive summary, our global network infrastructure spans 4 cloud regions, 60 enterprise sites, 9 security devices. While core network is operational, we have 4 connectivity outages and 5 security vulnerabilities. Right, so at a glance, from a C-level perspective, you're going to be able to see this really, really quick. And then you can get down to, what are the issues? How do we, what are recommended actions and things of that nature. Okay. Okay, so Misbah, do we want to go to our use case number 3?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Right, and I think I did want to provide the global footprint. So again, from an infrastructure overview, right? These are my 4 regions that I have. 4 regions, and it all did this automatically. Okay. So the next use case that I have, and let me go ahead and hit yes to this, is going to be one that comes up a lot, and it comes to the question, like, a real example from to deploy something. So I got this question from a customer where I did this demo, and he stated, this is great, but can your tool, can the MCP tool, if I say create a branch connector, an IPsec connector, can we go and do it? Okay. Now, the question to that is twofold. One, I wouldn't want to do it that way, although you can. Today you can't because it's read-only. In the future, we'll probably write APIs and make our own agent or so. However, I wouldn't do it that way because it doesn't have any state. But what does have state is Terraform. Okay, so the beauty now is you take your MCP and you put Terraform together in it, and then you really have a powerful tool. And again, the Anthropic with Claude Code has a very good LLM. It can look at code, a real life example is I took all my Terraform code that I did, I put it on there, it reviewed my modules, it provided some insights into certain validation that I'd never thought of. And of course, I reviewed it and I implemented it and it works great. Okay. But in this case, for this use case, I'm going to be very, very, very basic. Okay. What I'm going to have it do is I wanted to create a basic main.tf file for an IPsec connector. I don't want it to be an example for my SE sandbox, right? I don't want any output. I don't need any variables. And before you write code, show me the plan so I can view and approve. Now, this comes to the question where do we allow the agent or the MCP to write anything, right? I would say that for very long tasks, if you're going to have the agent to write any task or any code, what I like to do is to basically say, create a plan for very, very complex prompts. Because sometimes, it can crash, it can compact the session, it can lose its state. And I did see that with Claude, I think 3.5 LLM. 4.0 hasn't done that yet. So again, you do want to create a plan to do it, because if it does crash, you can basically say, hey, go back to the plan and review it. And for when you're doing code, right, you want to basically either create a plan.tf or create me a preview so a human can read it. If you like what you see, then approve it. Okay, so that's what I'm telling you to do right here. Okay, so in this case, I'm telling you to show me the plan. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And you will see that it does take some tokens, but what it's going to do is it's basically going to go out to review the Terraform provider, our Terraform provider that we have. And again, there it goes. It's fetching our IPsec MD. Once it does that, it's going to read the examples and going to create the implementation for the main.tf. So I didn't create this ahead of time because I wanted to show this live. But what I do to do sometimes is when this Claude Code session comes in, I do have certain things in this file that I wanted to read. I want to know that he has in memory. This is what I meant by a coding agent, to have certain things in memory. So like that, it can always reference it. You don't have to keep training it per se, right? So as soon as I run a Claude session, he already knows what he needs to do in here, okay? So while we wait for that as well, is the other thing from settings is you can give it permissions, a permissions perspective of what do you want it to do from the API. Now notice I did allow everything, right? But there's certain things that I don't want it to do, or you can deny certain things or ask certain things, okay? Now I can also, oh, here it goes. It created the thing already. So before we get to that, let's look at the plan, all right? So here's the plan, it went out there, created the plan. Here's the file main.tf. This is what we require. This is what we're gonna need, all right? So ensure that you need that. And here's the configuration details that we're gonna need, okay? Now, supporting data source, so it knows that this is exactly what you need from a requirements to make sure that the Terraform is going to work. So now it's telling me, do I proceed with this plan? What do you want to do? Do we want to change it? Anything like that? So I'm just going to say, great. Proceed with creating the file. All right. So, so yeah, while it does that, this shouldn't take that long now. But here's the other, like I was saying, the permissions. Okay. Now, the other thing that I see as a use case, and I'm not going to show it here because it does take a while, right? So the biggest thing that I come to do is deployments, right? The biggest thing that takes a lot of time is documentation. Okay. So when I started thinking about this, I started thinking like, okay, so after a deployment gets pushed out, okay, what happens when a new employee comes into the organization, right? And you have no clear deployment. How do we get that person up to speed? So what I ended up started thinking is like, okay, why don't I create tell the MCP server to go out there and give me what's actually live and deployed. Okay. And notice here is that with everything that I want to do, right, we need a human to approve it. But what's beautiful about this is that here's the workflow. I'm going to go out there, detect the changes, document the changes, review, and then approve the change. Now, this is currently right now, I ran this morning, and this is what we added on there, right? But this documentation is supposed to be up to date, okay? So what I ended up doing as well is like in the coding agent, there's these commands called slash commands. So what I started thinking is like, okay, how do I initiate this all the time, right? On demand when I want to do it. So basically, when I hit this slash command forward init, right? It's going to go over here and read the project, fetch all the current state with all of these APIs, right? Get the totals, look at all the changes that it did. And if it sees a change, it's going to document it here. We'll then basically create the updated deployment file, and basically your deployment's up to date, basically, okay? I ended up also changing it since, let's say, I just don't want to do the whole process. I just want to do a diff check, okay? In this case, I'm running diff check to see if anything has changed, and if there's a drastic change, I want to go ahead and do the init session change. Okay. Now notice that there's no code in here. All I did is I prompted it. I prompted it to exactly. I thought of what I wanted to do, how to do it, and this is the action in the memory that it has, so I can run these on demand. Okay. So so that's like the fourth use case that I'm not running here because it just for the benefit of time. But let's go back to the third use case, the basic Terraform. Okay. So in this case, it created the Terraform file. All right, a provider, data. Notice that there's no errors or anything like that. So it went to Alkira, fetched the documentation, and knew the schema of exactly how we wanted it.
So Alex, in essence, what you ran through, and I think you went too fast because of the time and all that. So if I have to summarize, like you see how many different personas interacted with the system with the same information that is being delivered by the MCP. The first persona was a security engineer or a compliance and audit guy, like trying to review or checking the configuration that it's aligned to whatever your framework or requirements are. The second one was like an executive trying to get a rundown of like how he is using these applications, or how he's using his network to deploy different applications. The third one is as a deployment engineer, like for instance, generating those terraforms that you need and all that stuff, right? Where and you have been in the middle of those deployments where these retailers have like 1,500 stores, right? And you have to come up with those Terraform scripts and all that before. And now you are basically asking Claude to actually create those for you so that you can scale better, right? And now you can have like hundreds of like stores that you can deploy it like in a given week. And the last one is like kind of a README file for your teams where somebody can just go and refer the current state of the network. You can build agent around it, which keep on probing the system and basically get the latest. And I think this is what the actual power of MCP that we wanted to reflect that. And this is just like some use cases that we went over. The possibilities are limitless. Like you have an agent that you can now talk to, and you can question about your network based on the persona you carry. I think that's the message that we want to have it here. And I think there is a very apt question that I see on the chat here, that can an MCP tell me why BGP is down and why VPN is down? Absolutely. Like basically the way that we go over is and I can go through the whole life cycle, right? Like alerts and notification that is part of the system. You can query like all the active alerts that are there. If your VPC or BGP is down, chances are it is part of those alerts, right? So once you get the alert against a particular connector, from there, you can dig into the connector details that, okay, which tunnels, which connections are down. And then you can eventually extract the logs as well. The logs shows the message, whether this VPN IPsec key mismatch, or it's a BGP AS number mismatch, whatever it is. So you can actually build your whole hierarchy of troubleshooting through this MCP because all the data exists there. So yeah, so you can definitely get that information, and it's an excellent question. And I think we have probably time for one more question. Uh, so yeah, so another question is around, again, compliance, right? NIST, HIPAA, PCI compliance, and all that, right? I think just from a compliance perspective, yes, you can definitely question, like it's basically defined by how you are asking the question. And from a HIPAA and PCI perspective, technically, the way we act in the middle from a compliance perspective is we are a network provider, right? So we do not host or store any of your HIPAA or PCI information, right? But at the same time, even if those requirements have, like, let's suppose hypothetically, that you can only send those information to a particular region. Those routes cannot go to, let's suppose, in APAC, right? Like they can only be restricted to Europe, or can only be restricted to Europe. You can easily check for those routes, and you can say that those are they advertising get outside of the Europe, and that would be your compliance check that no, these routes I see it in US, in APAC, and all that stuff. So it is basically defined by how, like, what the control requirements are. And based on those control requirements, you can ask those questions. Even with NIST also, like if there is particular encryption level and all that, you can have your agents keep on checking if there are any of those connectors that are not adhering to those encryption requirements and all that. So yeah, I think with that, we are actually, like, I think we have a lot more questions. And maybe I think we got 2 minutes. We'll take one more. The question is, can the MCP provide recommendation on underutilized, overutilized, rightly used connectors based on historic use? Absolutely. I think there's data. Again, it goes back to the same thing. Whatever that the groundwork that you do from an infrastructure perspective, like the data that you are collecting and feeding it back to the MCP server, that's the main thing here, right? So yes, so we do have that information available within our system, where you have the connector utilization, you have the CXP utilization, which gives you the utilization on a per CXP level, and you can actually get that information to get that if some of your link are oversubscribed and it's time to upgrade. That is the capacity planning use case that I was talking about. If they are underutilized, you can check with the team, like why we budgeted for this much, why we are not utilizing the link that one. So the answer is yes, you should be able to get those information, get the recommendation. You can build agents around it where it can notify you on a weekly basis, monthly basis. You can create reports out of it. So with that, I think we will wrap up the webinar today. Alex, thank you very much. That I think the proof is in the pudding. So that's why the demo was extremely important. But in the end, I think what we want to just leave you guys with is, if you have an initiative in order to deploy some of those AI applications, you are just like trying it out, and you want a system where it can bring up your network anywhere globally with security and all that, we can provide you the platform. We can provide you the platform that exists, that is everywhere. It provides you the architecture that fits right in with the AI requirements. And even though it's a transformation in terms of your network, how you do or deploy and leverage network, but you can start slow. I think a lot of our customers have a use case where they just start for one part of the network, and then like once they gain confidence, slowly grow and basically adopt us in other parts of the enterprise network. So you can start slow. This is the architecture that can provide you the agility that you need. And then secondly, this, like from an operations perspective, it will provide you the knobs and the tools to actually deliver AIOps, and some of the information that you can extract through these AI tools is insane. This basically changes how you are used to managing those networks, spending so much money building those tools and all that, and some of the information and knowledge that you get out of the box from this through our MCP and NIA that we have developed. If you have any question, feel free to reach out to us at sales@alkira.com. And again, we thank you for taking the time and attending our webinar.